What is going on, guys? Bingo here, and I'm very excited to be here with my deck profile from YCS LA, the 250th YCS. So I was lucky enough to be able to go. I was one of the 3,200 players that was initially enrolled in the main event. And I gotta say, I was very, very pleased with how things were going. Now, I did play my tried and true deck of the past couple years, Sky Striker. This was by far no meta call, right? This was just a comfort pick. I didn't anticipate finishing the event, but it was what I was most comfortable with for the longest time, and I was able to prepare without having to learn how to play on top of preparing for the event, right? I have a lot of stuff going on, so it was the best call for me, but by no means was it a good pick. This was a very challenging meta to go into. There was a lot of considerations when you're talking about deck building and the meta landscape that were factors. So there are definitely changes that I would make looking back at the deck, but I'd say it performed overall very, very well. As I'm sure you saw in the thumbnail, it is a titled X-2 deck profile, but that does not mean I went X2 drop like the podcast name. I actually did not finish the event, right? So I did have to leave after round 8, where I did finish X2. So 6-2 as far as this deck into the event, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. But I know you didn't click on this video to hear me ramble about my experience. So let's get into the profile. All right. So I'm going to do this a little bit informally. I'm not going to stage anything, so bear with me. So I do have 3 Sky Striker Ace Ray, as always, very, very prominent. Ray is amazing into certain matchups, just like she always has been. So the problems with Sky Striker is obviously Kashtira. Your Kashtira matchup is just abysmal. And that's, you have to tech out for it, and that's because the deck is very, very well poised and well positioned against you. And on top of that, you have decks like Naturia Runic, who have picked up in popularity, where you have a very difficult time and must have main deck answers for very powerful floodgate monsters like Naturia Beast. But Sky Striker Ray is still an incredible card to normal summon. It does wonders at breaking your sprite boards, your Melfi sprite, your Runic sprite. It's very, very good at getting through sprite boards. So that's probably one of the best things about this card. And it also does extremely well into anything that is not exactly Naturia Runic or Kashtira. So that's what some of the strengths of the deck. So you know what Ray is. She came out in 2018, so it's been a while. And then we are on the 1 Sky Striker Ace Rose. I did consider playing multiple Rose because sometimes it is nice to just have instant access to cards like Zeke or Donner. As we get into the extra deck, we'll see. But Rose is there to help facilitate the OTK, which did come up plenty of times because it's very easy to break a board, clear it, clear every card on the board, and the last 2 cards in hand being Ray plus linkage. So unfortunately, I did hard draw the Rose several times when I could have gone for the OTK, but it is what it is. So I would not modify the Sky Striker lineup at all. So I'm going to continue with the monsters. So as far as main deck monsters, we have Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and there was a heavy consideration to not play this card going into the event. I don't think it's amazing, but you do have a pretty rough matchup with Branded Bestial. And this weekend, I was anticipating a little bit of a resurgence with the Bestials, right? Nothing crazy, but I did anticipate seeing a higher count in the side deck and potentially main deck count being higher in the branded decks that I did face. And I'd say it performed as expected. I might have, if I went back, I might consider not playing it because it's always okay, right? But it just didn't ever feel like it couldn't have been something else. But it is always a safe option. I did opt for Not a super big hand trap lineup because this is the only monster hand trap in the deck. Followed by that, we have the Gamma Seal, the Sea Turtle Kaiju. This card was very, very powerful all weekend. Going into Naturia Runic, it let me tribute over just a Naturia Beast. It let me tribute over Kashtira Arise Heart. It let me... it pretty much was useful anytime I did see it, with the exception of Madolche, which was, I mean, it's what it is. You're going to play some weird stuff at these events, but this card was pivotal, and there's absolutely no consideration for me in this deck to play any tributing removal besides a Kaiju. Kurikara is great, but you can't really capitalize on it. There's just so many things that conflict with your engine, because I like to play Sky Striker as Sky Striker, not linkage engage like a really small Sky Striker engine. No, this is I think it's like 17, 18 Sky Striker cards plus the rest of the deck. So that's it for the main deck monsters, and that should be 10 monsters. Moving on to the Sky Striker spells, we have debatably the best card in the deck, or the deck that the card that pulls the most weight this day and age. So we have triple Sky Striker Mobilize Linkage. This card is amazing. It is absolutely insane what it does for the deck, and I hate when deck profiles use the word insane, but this card does so much heavy lifting in this deck. It lets you dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence, Effect Veiler on your Kagari. It lets you tag out into Kagari and Shizuku potentially on your opponent's turn. It just helps facilitate keeping your engine online if you shut it off because you had to go into a non-Sky Striker Link monster to facilitate plays. It lets you do so much, right? Example, you can Chainlink 1 Linkage, Chainlink 2 Widow Anchor for an opponent's card. And if you have 3 spells engrave on resolution, you take that monster, and then as Chainlink 1, you send the monster you just took off of linkage away, assuming your extra monster zone is clear. There's so many things that you can do with this card that you just weren't able to do without it. And it is absolutely incredible. There's no reason to play less than 2 of this card in any Sky Striker build that's trying to be a Sky Striker deck. Next card is Sky Striker Widow Anchor. This card is as good as always. If you can get to the point where you're resolving your spells for 3, then you are in a commanding position. That's the challenge at this metagame, is getting to 3 spells. And staying there, because you have cards like Kashtira Birth, which are really detrimental to your strategy, and it just comes up so often where you're just trying to get online, and then once you're online, your cards have a very good advantage engine to them, where you're gaining advantage with every single card activation. They're all +1s after you get that 3 spell threshold, right? I'm using Widow Anchor to take an opponent's monster. My opponent's -1. I'm card neutral. It is a +1. After burners, I'm using 1 card to expend to get rid of 2, and then I have multiple usage with cards like multi-roll, and that's why Sprite has such a hard time with this deck. But a lot of the time, it's just Effect Veiler. But where do we go from here? So we are on 2 afterburners. This was very good. This felt very, very nice. This card was always exactly what it was supposed to be, which is just spot removal. Now, I was never in a position where I opened this card as some of my only interaction with the board into an Arise Heart with the Megalith card or the Infinitrack card underneath it. I've never been in that position. Now I have had like Shangri-La on the opponent's field. So there was a game state where I ashed my opponent. So I opened double ash and imperm, right? So I burned all of the cards. I interrupted, and basically I just needed to stop that Shangri-La, and he was on basically 0 cards, right? Between all the interactions that we had. but I ashed the Shangri-La in the standby phase. And then main phase 1, Afterburners target Shangri-La. He's like, that's fine. Chainlink 2, Book of Moon. And I was able to destroy the card. I mean, this card was just very, very good for what it was. It's always spot removal. And it's your engine, which means you can get repeated uses off of it based off of multi-roll and Kagari. All right, so the one-ofs. We obviously have the card that any Sky Striker player would love to see go to 2. This card is so good for the deck. Not even, like, the draw 1 is insane, absolutely. But if you have multiple copies of this, it allows you to leverage that toolbox side of the deck much more than before. So I don't need to say more about Engage. I'm going to be hoping it comes up on the ban list to 2. So the next card is one of Hornet Drones, and this card honestly almost got cut. It doesn't do pretty much anything. It's just a body. Now it's good follow-up to search off Shizuku sometimes. Sometimes you just need a card to play, and that's the only reason why it exists. It's very susceptible to interruption, but you must see a way to play, because when you're in a struggling position, it's because you didn't open a pilot, you didn't open a way to start your engine, and that's why you're struggling. So yeah, it's not a very good card in pure Sky Striker, and it is a consideration to be cut. But if I don't like not being able to play. So between all of my 3 Ray, 1 Rose, 3 Linkage, 1 Engage, and 1 Hornet Drones, I still struggle sometimes to play the game, and that's just bad luck. It's part of the game, but I want to minimize that as much as I can. The next card is Shark Cannon. Shark Cannon's just a okay card right now. It was on the chopping block, but being able to do things like break a Kashtira board and then Shark Cannon back a Fenrir if able, or Shark Cannon back something that's useful, such as breaking a Naturia Runic deck, a board, and then Shark Cannon back the Naturia Beast. All of these things are possible. It's just a useful utility, and sometimes against Branded, you do things like Shizuku Search, activate to clear out the Albion from the graveyard. It's okay, and I feel like you do need to play 1, even though it's not that great right now. And then we have the one of multi-rule, an insane card when it gets rolling. But I'll be honest, guys, even if this was at 2, you don't play 2. Not right now. It's not the format for it. The deck is just too slow. This is a going first card. This is when I'm already playing. It doesn't do anything for you right now. So we play it at 1. It's a really, really good card, but the last one that took a long time to decide on was this one right here, Sky Striker Airspace Area 0. This card was better than expected, but still, I don't know if I would play it again. So I wanted Prosperity, or I wanted a card that would help me play when I was low on cards, but also wanted something that could be synergistic with the deck and help facilitate plays if I need it. And in this, it was this or Prosperity, and I landed on this. And I am pretty happy with that decision. I would like to see if I went back in time, would it have changed anything? This card was good, right? But sometimes it's awkward trying to get the card from the deck without losing, without playing into cards. So it's your call. I like it. I'm going to continue to see how it goes. But that is it for the Sky Striker spells. All right, so for the one-ofs, we have 1 Reinforcements of the Army. Amazing card. Nothing to say. You definitely play it. Upstart almost got cut because it is a going second card. But as of right now, it stayed in the deck, and that is because I am the majority of my cards are not for going first to interrupt them. Therefore, I can top deck them and they'll still be useful. because they're designed to break the board, not stop the board from being built. So that's why Upstart stayed in the deck. If I was playing a more heavy hand trap focused build where it was 12, 15 plus hand traps, I definitely don't know if I'd be playing Upstart in a blind second build. And then we have one of the best cards in the deck. I feel like you're just wrong if you're not playing this, Double Desires. No cards in the deck matter enough to not play this card. As long as you have a way to play, then that's all that matters. Every card in your deck does something useful. One game in the past 6 years have I banished everything that would allow me to play. And that was 2 days ago. I banished 3 Linkage, 3 Ray, 1 Rose, Hornet Drones. And that was an absolute anomaly. That doesn't happen. This card is amazing. It was incredible all weekend. Every card in the deck does something. And this, I would never play less than 2 Desires right now. And then we have the 3 Book of Moon. This card was good, right? It was exactly what you would anticipate. Interrupting boards, stopping them from doing stuff. It's good. The reason I stuck with Book of Moon is because it can be used against decks like Sprite going first. Would I play it again? It's really, really hard for me to say. And that's only based off of the matchups I have. I only played against Kashtira one time. I played against just about every deck in the room, it felt like. I don't know. It's been a couple days now. I can't remember off the top of my head if I played anything twice, but I played against a lot of decks. This card was always good, right? It helped push through a board or interrupted them going first. I would love for this to be a card like Offerings to the Doomed, where it can be a quick play interruption, because I feel like that's really valuable against Sprite. Maybe not the live twin Sprite build that will start gaining popularity, but I don't know. It's good for what we need right now. Obviously, we all know that. The card that was okay all weekend was Triple Lightning Storm. So anybody that was in the deck building process with me knows that I did struggle on what board breakers to play. Do I play 3 Lightning Storm? Do I play 3 Evenly Matched? And I did end up on Lightning Storm over Evenly Matched for a couple of reasons. I fear the small interruptions in the back row. There's pretty much no monster board that scares me at all. I just need to deal with the things like Birth, Double Cross, Brandon and Red. I want to get rid of those. And on the off chance the clearing monster effect is more relevant, then I'm going to use that. There are plenty of times where you're in a top deck situation, not a top deck situation, where your next card, maybe on turn 3 or turn 4, is this, and you can make it live if you want to. So this card was good. Do I think it was correct? I'm not convinced, but I did enjoy it. Then moving into Triple Tactics Thrust, I have 2. Sorry, I am playing 2. I have 3. This card is good. It is really, really good. But you cannot afford a card in your hand to not do something. All right, so if you open Thrust Talents and they don't play into either of them, you are now on 4 cards, most likely 3 because you probably hand trapped them, and you need to play into their board, which is very, very difficult. So this card is really good because it's basically 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talents, 3 copies of Change of Heart. If I want Lightning Storm, if I want cards in the side, it gives me 3 copies of them if I want it. If I don't, it's Rhoda, it's Engage, it's Desires, it's whatever I need it to be, but it's Change of Heart if it said this card's once per turn on the bottom. And that's the problem. It's very, very good, but you do not need 3 because then you're too heavily reliant on your opponent to do something for you. Now, I did play 3 for a couple weeks and it worked out fine. But I found myself I found myself in a disadvantageous position where I feel like I'm forcing this card just because it can be a swingy card. And this card was amazing at 2, with the exception of the game where I opened both of them. It did feel pretty bad. And then the last card is triple infinite impermanence. So this is the last hand trap, and that rounds it out. This card is really good, and I'm sure you know that. It's just probably the best hand trap of the format. All right, on to the main deck, or the extra deck. It's pretty standard, so I'll probably go pretty fast. Or I don't want to say standard, but most of it doesn't change. All right, so for the extra deck, we have triple Kagari. This will never change, doesn't need an explanation. Triple Hayate. This was almost 2 Hayate, but I didn't really know what to play in its stead because the deck is very aggressive with linkage. The way I play it, the way I view board states, I do go through links. I'm very aggressive clearing out my opponents. I'm linkaging on my opponent's turn. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. I'm burning links with the intention that if I can get through 2 sets of Sky Striker link monsters on the first one on my first turn, my turn going second, and then the second rotation through their turn, and then I use the last ones to kill them on the follow-up turn. So I found myself, I just burn in Sky Striker links because of the way that I feel like the deck should be played. Then we have 3 Shizuku, 1 Kaina, and double Zeke. Double Zeke is seemingly mandatory. Not really, but it's tough if this card gets ripped. It's really tough to break a cash board. And sometimes you just need to. Even if cash wasn't in the format, I would still play 2. If cash wasn't in the format, I would probably play 2 Hayate. Because going second, you're going to resolve 1 that turn, and then ideally win on the next turn if you have it. Now, for the non-strikers, Donner, Dagger for Hire. This card is incredible right now. So this is a stand-in for Azalea, basically, but this card is really, really good with the deck because with a card like Linkage, where I can quick effect send a card I control, being Donner, in the extra monster zone to special summon another one. This card does not need to send both cards in order to destroy the targets that remain. So I can send it away, but my opponent's card still gets destroyed. Very, very useful. But most likely one of the second Zeke or the Donner is going to get replaced by Azalea when she does come out. And then the card that is strictly determined by Kashtira right now in the format is double Zeus. I still think no matter what in this format, you do play 1 Zeus. Because you do have Kashtira, but then you also have decks like Melfi Sprite. You have decks like Runic, where not Runic, Sprite, where they do have XYZs, and you can take advantage of it. I do think it's just a good card to play right now. And then token and mute. All right, and lastly, we have the side deck, which is going to be probably the area I did feel the most frustration in the deck building process, and that's because the format is so not unknown, right? But it is so varied. There's so many variables when deck building and considerations that you need to go wide, which can limit you in certain matchups. But 3 enemy controller, card's good going first, it's good going second. It was really, really good all weekend, being able to take my opponent's level 2s, being able to interrupt the Kashtira board, playing my monster into their board to force an interruption, and then tributing my monster off to take theirs, make Zeus. It's a very, very good spell card that helps facilitate the way your deck works. Tributing for cost, clearing the extra or the main monster zone if needed. It's a very strong card that I would consider playing again. And then we have triple Cosmic Cyclone. Card was amazing all weekend, and I would not play this event again without it. Harpies Feather Duster. Card is mediocre. I probably wouldn't play this card again. It was fine. I think I drew it once. I sided it in a few times. I think I was able to resolve it one time. It was okay. And then we have the card that I struggled with for literally like a day. Do I play this card? Do I not? And that's Nibiru. There's just so many variables when it comes to deck building right now that this card was just it really boiled down to, well, if they don't lock 5 me, I feel like I can win, and if they do lock 5 me, this card beats them. All right, so it's good against that mentality of Kashtira, where I'm okay if I have a dead card in my hand briefly, as long as they don't lock 5 me. But it's also good against other decks, which is why I did decide, with a varied format like this, I did decide to play it. Now, the next card that was mediocre at best, which was Dimensional Barrier. So I don't think I ever actually drew this card. I sided it in against Branded Despia. I sided it in against Madolche, Sword Soul, and I just never saw it. And I say it's mediocre because it never shows up in my hand. It's like it's 2017 in the Zoo format all over again. Come on. But it was okay. In the sense that I felt like if I drew it in those matchups, it would have been highly impactful. So I think I'd play it again. It's not here for Kashtira. This card sucks against Kashtira. They just kill you. And then the card that was the one that I decided on pretty late in the game. It was the day before the event when I submitted my deck list. I was up. And I felt like this was a really good choice. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to draw it, but I did play it into Branded. I did play it into Kashtira, and I did play it into Sword Soul, and never drew it. So I couldn't tell you. I was happy with this card in my deck. But guys, that is everything. I do hope you enjoyed the deck profile, because I had an absolute blast. And this was my first YCS attendance. So guys, if you have never gone to a YCS, from a player who's been playing since Starter Deck Yugi came out, it was an incredible experience. I definitely wish you guys get the chance to go. Before I leave, I'd like to shout out the couple of people that I got to go to the event with, right? So there's too many to count, but Delbert, Tikle, and a couple others, thank you for the wonderful time. It was a great experience. Shout out to Dominic Couch, Marcus Hayden, everybody that I got to run into and reconnect with at the event, because I did used to live a lot closer to them. I got to play with them a lot more back then, but it was a fun time. So guys, if you like to listen to me ramble for such a long time about a deck that is 6-7 years old, please let me know in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it. There will be a shorter version of this somewhere, I promise. All right. Thank you. Peace out.